So we're only a couple of months away from Avengers Endgame at this point, and obviously, I'm pretty excited. I'm not going to go over it all again, but I talk about it in this video, if you want to hear me talk about that in depth, and honestly, I talk about it in a lot of other videos as well. Favorite franchise, seen Infinity War like 7 times, super excited, yada yada. You know I'm excited for this. Today, I'm going to talk about what I want to see in this film. A bunch of wishes based off of the very limited information we have about it. We still don't really know what this film is, and that just makes me that much more hyped. Also, potential spoilers for Endgame, although these are just things that I think would be cool to see. But some of this stuff is based off of toy leaks and set photos, so if you've stayed away from those things, just don't watch this video, probably. It's nothing major, like the ending being spoiled or something, but if you don't know what this set photo is, or this leaked concept art is, and you really don't want to know, yeah, you've been warned, because I'm going to talk about that stuff. Now, big disclaimer right here, this is not what I think is going to happen in the film. Some of this stuff, yeah, I think it'll happen, but this isn't me saying it will. This is stuff I'd personally like to see happen, because some of these, yes, I know they won't happen. Like, I know the Defenders aren't going to show up in a post-credit scene. Yes, that's one of the things coming up. It's just something I think would be cool. And this isn't me saying if these things aren't in the film will be bad or something. Or like, these are the best ideas out there for this. I'm sure the film will do a lot different from what I'm about to say, and it's still probably going to be great. Just want to clear that up. So, let's get into this. So first up, let's talk time travel, which is almost 100% going to be happening in this film. As far as how it's going to happen, there are a few options. There's the Time Stone, although that's with Thanos, so I don't think they'll be using that. There's the Quantum Realm, which for the longest time I thought was really going to be it. And still, most of the evidence points to that. Janet Van Dyne said something about time portals or vortexes or something in the Quantum Realm. Scott Lang goes in there, time travels accidentally, pops out again, and tells the Avengers about it, and then they use that. There's also been concept art and toy leaks of all the Avengers wearing what looks to me like Quantum Realm suits, so that's still what I think it is. And I like that idea a lot. But then something also came out recently that I won't spoil, because I'd consider this a pretty big spoiler, but you might have seen it already. I'm just going to keep this vague, because if you haven't seen that, I don't want to ruin it. But that could also be how they do some of the time traveling, or possibly it's a combination of the two, because it would be kind of weird to hint at the time travel possibilities of the Quantum Realm, only to go in a totally different direction. Anyway, I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but what I would love to see is the Avengers going on kind of a heist of all the Infinity Stones across all kinds of different points in the MCU. And maybe at some point they do something wrong, or Thanos comes after them and they end up at totally different points and have to fight their way out of it. I don't know, but point is, I love this idea so much. This idea really works and is really rewarding for those like me who have been keeping up with this universe for a while now. And this universe is so big and expansive and has been going for so long that it would absolutely work to do this. There are so many possibilities. Yes, it's kind of fan-servicey, I suppose, but I don't have a problem with fan service if it's well done and fits with the story. Seeing the Avengers as they are now pop up in the New York battle from the first film would just be insanely awesome. Now, the characters who have been rumored to be appearing, or actors have accidentally confirmed it, or it's been leaked, or whatever, characters who might be appearing include the Ancient One, Hela, Loki, Howard Stark, Peggy Carter, Crossbones, and the kid from Iron Man 3. And I'm sure many more. Those all sound like interesting characters to revisit. Either they didn't get that much to do, so seeing more of them could be fun, or they're very well developed and have had a big impact on these characters and this universe, and so seeing more of them would be really cool. Like Peggy Carter, who's played a huge role in Steve's life and is an awesome character. Also, her show got cancelled before it got like a proper, amazing wrap-up, so seeing her again would also be nice for the fans who followed that show. Anyway, what time periods in the MCU would I like to see the Avengers go back to, and or what characters would I like to see again? Well, World War II with the first Avenger, I think, would be a lot of fun, and we might actually see that because of Howard and Peggy apparently showing up. Also, I love that film, and it could lead to some interesting moments of maybe Tony seeing his dad again, Cap seeing Peggy, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the first Avengers they're probably going to go back to. Maybe the first Iron Man could be fun, just briefly, so Tony can see how awful he used to be and get some perspective, and maybe appreciate how much he's grown. Going to the first Guardians of the Galaxy would be fun. Again, one of my favorite MCU films, and it would give us a chance to maybe see more of the Guardians interacting with the Avengers. Age of Ultron has a lot of possibilities, since I feel like that movie had a lot of really interesting and exciting ideas, and just didn't really execute all of them that well, even though I still really enjoyed most of that film. Look, the point here really is that the possibilities for this kind of premise are pretty much endless. And honestly, I probably could make a case for why going back to each MCU film could be fun or interesting in a different way. Although I'm not sure how they would deal with Mark Ruffalo going back to the Incredible Hulk. But the main point is, I have no idea how big of a role the time travel will play in this, or if it even really is time travel and isn't, like, going to different dimensions or something else. I'm just saying, if this premise is anything like what the leaks and rumors have indicated, I think that's a fantastic idea for the culmination of all of these films. Let's talk about Thanos for a bit. What's gonna happen with him in this film? I'm not totally sure, but I'm fairly confident that at the end of the film, he's gonna die. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's gotta be coming after all of this. For the rest of the film, I think it's going to be less Thanos-focused than Infinity War. I think he's just chilling on his farm, and maybe halfway through he realizes the Avengers are doing something and tries to stop them. The film will be long enough for all kinds of stuff to happen, so who knows. But I'm mainly focused on his death here. And yeah, you can kind of sympathize with him a little bit, I suppose, at certain points in Infinity War. But at the end of the day, he's a maniac who murdered billions or trillions or quintillions of beings across the universe. Who knows how many planets and beings are out there in the MCU? And he needs to be taken down. Now, who gets the honor of killing the biggest villain in the MCU so far? Let's go through some options. One theory I've heard is that he'll actually end up killing himself because he's so depressed by having to murder Gamora and doesn't feel satisfied with how things turned out. I don't think that'll happen, and I don't really want it to happen, because after he beat the Avengers and took so much from them, call me old-fashioned, but I want some proper revenge and justice from one of the people, or a few of them, whose lives he pretty much destroyed. Also, while I'm going through these next options, keep in mind, I'm sure the Avengers will work together in some way to kill him, but I think there's going to be one person who gets to deliver the final blow. There are 5 options that I think are likely. Tony, Cap, Captain Marvel, Nebula, or Thor. For Captain Marvel, look, I'm writing this video before Captain Marvel's out, so I don't know how much or what kind of development her character is going to get in that, and I'm sure she'll have a big role in Endgame and do lots of cool things, but for the final shot to kill Thanos, I feel like that'd be kind of unsatisfying, given that not only is she a very new character for the audience, but also she wasn't there during Infinity War, and doesn't have that same personal history with Thanos as some of these other characters do. And even if they write that into the Captain Marvel film, where Thanos shows up at the end and beats her up and then leaves, and then she's hated him for 30 years, and technically has hated him longer than most of the other Avengers, which I don't think will happen, but even if something like it did, I don't think the audience will feel that same attachment to her versus this villain, as they do for the characters we've seen go up against him for a longer time, and have been anticipating them facing off against him again. At least, I don't think I would. So I'd say she'll definitely help in defeating Thanos, but for the kill shot, I think it should be one of the others. Nebula is a less clear case for me, because from a storytelling perspective, it makes sense. It's just personally, I've never been very attached to her character. Guardians 1, she's more of an evil henchman. Infinity War, she gets tortured and does a bit of fighting. The main film where she gets some development is in Guardians 2. And even there, even though the conflict between her and Gamora isn't bad at all, I personally don't find it incredibly compelling. And in that film in particular, it was like the 3rd most interesting character conflict for me. I'm just not super attached to her as a character. Also, a lot of the bad things Thanos did to her we've been told about and haven't actually seen, unlike some of the other characters where we've seen all the terrible stuff he put them through. So I guess on that level, I'm also less attached to her journey to kill him. Personally, I'd like to see it be someone else. And then of these 3, honestly, it could be any of them. They all have their reasons. Cap obviously had a lot taken from him, like everyone else. His 2 best friends, for example. And his showdown with Thanos is an iconic comic book moment. Thor can redeem himself and fulfill his destiny and make good on his promise, although he's already had 2 shots at it.
He's the toughest there is.
Well, he's never fought me.
Yeah, he has.
He's never fought me twice.
Yeah, he has.
Really, I think it should be Tony. It's kind of a cliche answer, but he's had a really personal connection to Thanos throughout these films, starting back at the Avengers when he sent that army to New York, and made Tony super paranoid and changed his character a lot. He had a great face-off with him in Infinity War, he lost a lot as well because of Thanos, and he started this franchise, so to see him kill the biggest villain of this universe so far would be pretty satisfying, especially if this is Tony's last film. So yeah, I'm rooting for it to be Tony, although keep in mind, with all of these, like Cap and Nebula, there is still a whole 2.5 to 3 hour film for more development to be given to them and their hatred for Thanos that could change things. Also, I've heard a theory relating back to Thanos being depressed about all this and regretful, where the Avengers actually team up with Thanos to reverse the snap, which could be interesting, definitely, but I doubt that'll happen. Now let's talk for a bit about the heroes that are going to come back from the dead. Which, I mean, yes, hasn't technically been confirmed, I guess, although it kind of has. But I mean, come on, you know it's coming. How that's gonna happen, I've already talked about. Some combination of time travel and going to another dimension, I think is the key here. I obviously don't know for sure though. But as far as, should we see these heroes throughout the rest of the film? I don't think so. People have talked about how everyone who died in the snap is inside the Soul Stone. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but even if that is the case, I don't think we should see what they're up to in there, or anywhere else they might be, if they got sent to another dimension or something. Whether they've just died and are gone, or are somewhere else just hanging out, I think showing that would make them returning to life and possibly reuniting with the original heroes less impactful than it would be if they didn't show them. And on that note, I think we should get a little reuniting of the returning heroes with those who survived the snap, before they possibly die or go away. I would just love to have one more moment of Peter and Tony and Steve and Bucky and Rocket and the Guardians. I mean, who knows? Maybe some of those who survive the snap will stay alive. That's definitely a possibility. And then they can still have a heartfelt reunion, but those who are going to die, because someone's going to die in this film, possibly and probably more than one person, I would like to see one more moment of them with the returning heroes. Now, as far as who's going to die in the film, it's really still up in the air. Like I just mentioned, it could be all of these Avengers who are left, it could be one of them, or, and this is the one I think is most likely, it'll be some of them, but not all of them. I think Steve Rogers and Tony Stark dying are pretty safe bets, although then again, back in the day, I thought Cap was going to die in Civil War, so who knows, anything can happen. But based on a lot of factors, their contracts being up, the MCU moving in a different direction, their storylines and character arcs wrapping up, a lot of this points to them dying, probably through some kind of sacrifice. First of all though, and I think this is pretty much guaranteed, but before one or both of them dies, I'd love to see Cap and Tony just meet up one more time, and just have a moment of mutual respect before they go off. Because I mean, this was the last time they actually saw each other. So just to have a scene where they shake hands and have one last moment of friendship, or again, at least respect for each other, because despite Tony's line in Civil War,
"He's my friend. So was I."
They never really seemed like great friends, more like colleagues who got along most of the time and disagreed on a lot of stuff. So just a nice moment before the end where they acknowledge what the other's done for the world and for the team would be a great resolution to that arc that they've had with each other. We even got a hint of that in Infinity War, with Tony thinking Cap's the only one who could find Vision, and Cap saying Tony is Earth's best defender. Then, as far as Tony's death, maybe he won't die, because I think he's also going to marry Pepper in this film, and Pepper might be pregnant. I mean, that seemed like a bit of not-so-subtle foreshadowing in Infinity War to me, so I don't really know how all those things are going to come together. But Tony actually having a kid and getting one last goodbye with Pepper could make his possible death all the more emotional. And then Steve, I don't know how this would lead to his death, or maybe it just leads to him going off to some other dimension, or something like that. I don't know, but I would really love to see him go out by getting that last dance with Peggy. Again, Peggy's been a big part of this character's journey, and I love both characters and their relationship from that film. And that ending, where they talk about getting that last dance right before he goes in the ice, always makes me choke up a little bit. So to see that finally get resolved and those characters end up together and get the happy ending that they didn't get before, I feel would be the best way to say goodbye to this character. Again, don't know how that would work with the film's story, given that I don't really know what the story is. Just from a character perspective, I like that idea a lot. Also, this isn't about character deaths, but about just ending and resolving character arcs. I'm looking forward to the end of the Hulk's arc that started in Ragnarok. Because a while back, I think Mark Ruffalo or Kevin Feige said Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Avengers 4 were going to have a Hulk arc in them, since they can't make a Hulk solo movie, so they'll do it in the bigger team-up films. And so it started with Hulk taking over and Banner not really having control for about 2 years. Then Hulk had another kind of control over Banner, where he wouldn't show up and help him, and Banner had to win fights on his own. And now I think it's going to culminate in Banner and Hulk becoming one unified being through something. And I think Hulk will be able to talk more and be more intelligent than he has been before. And that's also been hinted towards by this promo art, where it looks a lot more like Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. Although just personally, I think this looks really bad. It just looks like kind of a cheap Photoshop of Mark Ruffalo's face onto the Hulk. That being said, this is just a promo still, and Hulk in the actual movie may and likely will end up looking better than that. Okay, I've reserved a whole section for Hawkeye, or I guess Ronan now, because I think he's going to have quite a bit to do in this film. So as far as his motivation for coming out of retirement to help the Avengers again, I mean, besides the fact that the world is ruined and he kind of has to, a more personal motivation could be that his whole family was killed by the snap. This is something a lot of people have speculated will happen, and to me, it makes perfect sense. That whole family aspect, I at least thought was set up pretty well in Age of Ultron. It makes it way more personal for him, and it can lead to him going darker than it previously has, which is what it looks like is going to happen. I would also love to see a Thanos-Hawkeye face-off, and not an actual fight or anything, because I think it's pretty obvious where that would go. Just a moment of some kind of face-to-face confrontation. He just stands up in front of him, just a completely normal human being with no superpowers, prepared to go against this Titan. I don't know, I think that would be a really cool moment. Also, and this is super specific, I know, but I would love it if Hawkeye puts an arrow through Thanos' eye somehow. I was just rewatching clips from the first Avengers film, and he mentions how he'd feel a lot better if he put an arrow through Loki's eye, and I feel like that would be a cool callback to that film, while also being one of the few ways I can think of that Hawkeye could actually hurt Thanos in a fight. Also, as far as Catherine Langford, her role still hasn't been revealed, but people are speculating that she'll be Kate Bishop, and then there's also been speculation, partly by me, that that's what the rumored Hawkeye show will be about. The thing is, there are a lot of ifs in that sentence, with speculation and rumors and all that, so at least some of that, if not maybe all of it, won't turn out the way people are thinking. So, with so little confirmed information, I don't really have much to say on that one. All I'll say is, if this is leading up to some kind of spin-off with her, I'd have her show up briefly, just setting it up, but not spend too much time on it, since there's so much else going on here. Again though, she could very easily be playing a completely different character, and play a completely different and very important role in the film, so we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, for this section, I don't know where these moments would fit in the film specifically. These are just some more miscellaneous moments that I couldn't really think of where to put in the other sections that I think would be cool to see. Firstly, Cap lifts Mjolnir. I mean, if they're time traveling, they should be able to come across Mjolnir again, and Cap wielding it either in battle or just as a quick moment would be amazing. I mean, remember how cool it was when Vision did it? Now imagine Steve Rogers doing it. This next one, I actually have something of a visual representation for, but I just want to clear this up. I thought of this before I saw this animation, and I can't remember which video I said it in, but I'm about 90% sure that I said this in a video before this animation even came out. I'm definitely not saying they made it because of something I said, I'm just saying it's like parallel thinking. But anyway, this film is almost definitely going to have a few moments like when Thor came to Wakanda, and the Avengers theme blares that will make fans go crazy, because the Russos seem to really know what kind of stuff the fans want. And one of those moments, I was thinking maybe they'd have some kind of for Frodo type moment.
For Frodo.
Where they charge all triumphant with the Avengers theme in honor of a character. Or, once all the dead heroes have returned, or you could even do this with just the Avengers that are left, have Thanos do a slow turnaround and all the heroes are standing there and the Avengers theme plays, and it'd be so great. Now this animation does have the X-Men and the Netflix heroes and all that, and that won't happen. But generally speaking, this is the kind of thing I was thinking of. Also, I'm pretty sure someone, probably Captain America, will say Avengers Assemble in this, and that'll be another one of those awesome moments. It could end up being kinda corny or cheesy, but if anyone can pull it off, it's the Russos. And hey, it being a little corny or cheesy can sometimes be part of the fun with these superhero films. There's also a theory that this shot from the Infinity War trailer that ended up not being in the final film might be in this movie. After they've done all their time traveling, maybe there's a repeat of the Battle of Wakanda. I don't know if that'll happen, but it's possible. And they shot these movies back to back and around the same time, so that would make doing this sort of thing easier filmmaking-wise. That being said, we've already seen the Battle of Wakanda, so I don't think they should or will redo the whole thing, like have the entire final battle be set there again. But having that shot pop up would be a fun payoff, after it being a little disappointing that it wasn't an Infinity War. This is something I'm sure we will get, but I also just want to see more character crossovers, like Tony Stark and Rocket having a little back and forth, or Captain America meeting the Guardians of the Galaxy, or Spider-Man meeting Black Panther, or any of that kind of stuff. The character crossovers have been a super fun part of these films so far, so I'd love to see more of that. And finally, this is one I've talked about quite a bit already, but I really want to see Tony get out of that situation on the Benatar on his own like he did in Iron Man 1. And when I say on his own, I do realize he's getting help from Nebula, much like how he got help from Yinsen, but you know what I mean. Not being rescued by the Avengers or Pepper or the Ravagers or whatever, but escaping an almost impossible situation with very few materials. That just sounds like the perfect callback to the first Iron Man, and what may be Tony's last film. I know Pepper Potts is going to be in the rescue suit, and that may have something to do with this situation, but personally, I really want to see Tony Iron Man 1 his way out of this. Okay, now finally, let's talk post-credit scenes. What do I think they're going to be? Probably something setting up the next phase of MCU films, like the next big villain maybe showing up, or it might have something to do with the Skrulls, like some major character turns into a Skrull, because I don't really know where that whole Skrull thing is going to go after Captain Marvel. Initially, I thought this whole film was going to be Skrull-based, but now, I wouldn't be surprised if we just get a little bit of that in the post-credits. Now, what would I love to see? Okay, so fantasy choices that won't happen. Frankly, I don't think any of these could happen because of, like, legal reasons and character rights and all that. I don't know how far along that whole Disney Fox thing is. But I mean, if there was an X-Men tease, that would make people go insane, right? Like, you just see the Wolverine claws come out, they don't even have to show who's playing him. People would go nuts, and I'd love it too. Or you could do a Fantastic Four tease, where it's just some guy sitting at his desk, talking to someone, and then it pans out and reveals it's John Krasinski, and then it pans out further and reveals the little Reed Richards nameplate on his desk, and then he looks directly into the camera and does a Jim face.
A little comment.
Okay, maybe not that last part, but the rest of it, I think that could be a kind of fun way of doing it, if John Krasinski ends up playing Mr. Fantastic. You know, whoever it ends up being could be in that scene. I still feel that Fantastic Four reveal might be coming in Far From Home, where Avengers Tower is under construction the whole time, and then at the end it's revealed to be something big, like the Oscorp building or the Baxter building. Again though, I don't think the Disney Fox deal is far enough along for that to happen yet. Or maybe it is now, but it wasn't when they were making the film, and also Sony's involved there, so I assume that just complicates things more. And finally, this is actually the one I want the most, and the one I really know won't happen. But if the Defenders showed up in some capacity, or at least Daredevil, or some kind of hint to that Netflix world, have Turk Barrett show up. I don't care. That would be incredible. It won't happen, but I really don't want some of those shows to be dead forever. And I'd love to see these characters come into the films, specifically Matt Murdock and Frank Castle. So, those were my wishes for Avengers Endgame. What do you want to see here? Let me know all of your thoughts down below in the comments. While you're at it, be sure to like this video, check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson, check out this podcast about movies and TV and whatnot I do with a friend of mine, it's called The Poorly Planned Podcast, and subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.